Welcome to the Real Film Geeks. I'm Addison Lee.
And I'm Zebedee.
All right, guys, it's 2018. We got a whole lot of films that came out we're going to talk about. And the only way we can do that is we brought on another Real Film Geek. Welcome to the table, Tim Wolf.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Oh, no problem. So now we got a good old three-way going on. And let's talk about these good movies and movies.
Right.
Because there are a lot of movies. So, all right, Tim, since you are the newest member of the team, why don't you go? What's a film that you really liked this year? That came out in 2017.
Oh man, there was actually a lot, but I'm going to try and pick one that I think has gotten a lot of mixed reviews, and just to kick it off with a little controversy, maybe Mother.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing Mother, where a lot of people I heard from didn't appreciate the movie very much, but for me, it's kind of something that you don't get a lot of in theaters anymore, because I don't think people are willing to produce movies that are weird like that. And I appreciate weirdness as long as it's done with a good intent, a good heart behind it. I think there was definitely that. There was a lot of passion put into that movie, and I don't think I'll see another movie like it in the theater probably for a long time, maybe ever.
I didn't see it, but I read about it just because I was just like, I don't know. And then I read about it, I was like, yeah, this is probably one of those, like, I feel like what was it, Darren Aronofsky, was he the one? Yeah,
Aronofsky.
I feel like he was like, all right guys, before we start filming, there's a possibility we might all lose our jobs after this, so just putting that out there so no one's surprised when you're not getting hired again, but this is gonna happen.
I think he wrote it in a fever dream kind of
weekend.
state, one night.
It was like he said, a long weekend on a fever dream. It's like
right.
that, because I saw like clips of him like that. This is a fever dream. Like, holy crap! Did you see Mother Zeb?
No, I did not. I really wish I had now. Huh.
Yeah,
I don't know how I missed that one.
I have not seen a movie have so much like literally split down the middle, because I think even the movie poster has like one side it's like all the good reviews, and on the other side it's just like all the bad reviews, because they're just like, because really it is definitely split down the middle. Like, everyone's just like, oh, I love this movie, or screw this movie, it's not good. Like, it's too heavy-handed, or it's too confusing or complicated. And sometimes that's what people want in film, and at the same time some people just kind of want things to be very simple for everyone else.
Right. It was kind of billed as a Rosemary's Baby, and it's not that at all, I don't think.
So going to it, I'll start off another one. Let's kind of knock all the big ones out of the way. Another movie that kind of split people down the middle, and it's a movie I did like, but I understand why people didn't like it, and that was Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Right.
And yeah, that one was like, I remember watching it when after the movie
was rough.
After the show was over, I was waiting for people to be like, yeah, and everyone's just kind of like, like they're like all kind of.
Yeah, that's interesting, because the first time I saw it, people clapped after it was over.
Oh, really?
And the first time I saw it, I actually liked a lot of it. The parts that I do not like, just really do not like, I already didn't like when I saw it the first time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I saw it the second time that I started going like, wait a minute, this isn't right. I got a little bit too caught up in how much I like Star Wars for a second there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I saw it twice, so obviously I had to enjoy parts of it. Like,
of course.
The spoiler alert, I guess, but like the Yoda scene was just like beautiful. It is probably my favorite part of any Star Wars movie.
Oh, definitely.
That they've come out with. Of 7 and 8 now, and even 1, 2, and 3. My favorite part of any of those movies is the Yoda scene now.
It was kind of like emotion when you see him like walking up, and you see the ears. You're like, Yoda, like, yeah. I was like, please don't cut away, keep it on the scene, like,
yeah.
Because that
was my biggest thing. I thought it was just gonna be like a little hint. Oh man, Force Ghost is kind of there, maybe. No, they just went and said, hey, guess what? Yoda.
Because I do remember when they first started filming, they said Frank Oz was on the island, and everyone was just kind of like, he's probably just there because it's Frank Oz. He's as a part of Star Wars as anyone else, and it's just like,
right.
No, he's in it. Like
he's in
he's actually in it. So
So yeah, but upon my second viewing, I started to like actually kind of like digest some of the things that I was seeing, some of the things that I heard, and went, oh my gosh, yeah, there's a lot wrong here. There's still some really good stuff, and I will argue that I don't believe that this weird Rey Kylo Ren thing is like supposed to be like a relationship kind of thing. She's just someone that wants to redeem him, and he is nigh irredeemable, and so all of their force chatting and like force Skype is like the redemption path, or at the very least humanizing Kylo Ren's character, so that we can try to do something like that.
Yeah.
In the end,
I actually thought at the end of the movie, I really like Kylo Ren as a villain. Like
Yeah.
he's real. Like he grew on me because at first, because like if you look at Kylo Ren, you have to understand that this is a kid who was literally raised on nepotism. He was the son of Han and Leia. He's the nephew of Luke. He's the grandson of Vader. Literally everything was just handed to him because of his lineage.
right?
And like the scene when they say like, oh yeah, we lost the girl, and he has a tantrum. It's like, no, that would make sense if you rose through the ranks just because of your lineage and you're the apprentice of Snoke. Yeah, you would have a tantrum like that. And so with this, you see his evolution from like now, instead of like, oh, I'm so conflicted. Now he's just like, this is how it is.
Right.
Yeah. So what you think, Tim?
Well, I know Ryan Johnson has been both blamed and praised for people's feelings on this movie, and I'm kind of split. I'm split on the same kind of elements. Like I think some of the weakest parts were his fault, and some of the strongest parts were his fault. I really enjoyed the emotional connections in the movie, like you were mentioning before about Yoda and his interaction with Luke. When Luke sits down, and I forget that he's an old man now, it's almost like he was a kid again. That was emotional for me. I was like, oh my God, it's like I'm watching the old Star Wars movies when I was a kid. And then I also really love the connection between Rey and Kylo. And my criticism of The Force Awakens when it first came out was I did feel Rey was a weaker character, but I feel like Ryan Johnson's writing really elevated both Kylo and Rey, and I really cared about them when I was supposed to. In that scene in the throne room, I almost wanted them to come together in a way that the movie didn't ultimately go that way. But
Yeah.
it definitely made me want that. And I think that was due to strong writing. So,
And that's one of the things too about that interaction and that relationship between those two that Luke didn't have with Darth Vader is the entire time Luke's always just like, no, Father, I will not join you. You've got to come to the light side. But Rey actually is like, she's not, I wouldn't say she's tempted by the dark side. She's tempted by like this uniting of like people, of bringing people together and or finding peace. And she's like, this is a route to peace, but it would be under the heavy iron foot of the, First Order. And I don't know if I can do that, but I really want to work with Kylo Ren. And Ren is also like, I really want to work with you, but I kind of don't want to have to work with my mom because I want all of that to die.
And it's like also you got to think about like, look at my resources and look at your resources.
Right.
My resources have been chasing your resources while they've just been slowly being picked off. And also you brought up the throne room. I have not liked a lightsaber fight as much as that since maybe the Darth Maul one. Because
That was a
like
pretty cool
the
lightsaber
moment
fight.
like when Snoke goes down, I guess spoilers doesn't matter.
Well, we've kind of already.
So when Snoke goes down
And she grabs the lightsaber. Like that actually was fantastically done because it wasn't just Kylo Ren forcing the lightsaber to himself. He forced it to Rey.
Right.
That was one of
Yeah.
the biggest things that they did in this film that they haven't really done a whole lot with the Jedi ever, was when they were working in tandem, they were using the Force to aid each other.
Yeah.
Like that was
It was like the one moment of pure like balance of the forces when these two were working together,
a
and
red
that fight,
lightsaber and a blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
Fighting together. Come on.
and like how awesome was it when like the last guy to go down, Kylo Ren just like put the lightsaber to his head and just like
Oh.
like it was so cool. But another thing I will have to say that kind of bugged me was how they went through the all the questions, like the main 3 questions of that was going into this movie. What was Luke going to do when he got the lightsaber?
Oh yeah.
Who was Rey's parents, and who was Snoke? I liked when Luke got the lightsaber. He just went and just threw it. I thought that was really funny. Because it was just like, because I remember, because like that wasn't even the first scene in the movie. That was like maybe what, almost 10 minutes
5 or 10 minutes
into the movie, and he's just like, nope, and just throws it. Love it. The Snoke thing, I did not like, because unfortunately, how is he the supreme leader? I needed just even though they could have kept him being killed, because I like the fact that it's not just
not Return of the Jedi when he dies. It's
what would happen if Vader took over the Empire instead of being a lapdog for the Emperor. So that's what Kylo Ren's doing. He's the new supreme leader, and I really like that. And now Rey's parents, it's kind of like, well, I like the fact that they're just saying like, you know what, you're a nobody, and I really like the idea of the nobody being the hero of the story.
Right.
But at the same time, you're kind of just like, you kind of kept us all wondering for the past 2 years about who our parents were.
The thing is, though, I heard this really great theory that they're nobody to Kylo Ren because he doesn't understand. Because to him, they're just junk dealers, scrap dealers. Why should they matter? But they might have been junk dealers, scrap dealers at the time, and they were actually someone important before. Or, they're junk dealers and scrap dealers, but that doesn't mean that they're not like
any more or less important
to
Rey.
And Rey's memory of a ship flying away still might be them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because Kylo Ren, I think he says, they probably died out in the wilderness somewhere or something like that. They sold it for booze money. Like he probably doesn't actually know that. He was angry at her at the time and was probably trying to hurt her as much as he could.
And he probably just doesn't understand the concept of good parenting.
Yeah, he probably saw a vision of her parents, but didn't have the context for it.
Yeah.
I actually have a little bit of a different take. I take your point about Snoke being one of the points that a lot of people didn't like, and yourself included. I think the whole throne room scene, including the Snoke twist, is probably the best sequence in Star Wars, period, for me personally.
Yeah.
And if you take out Snoke, I think a lot of people would agree it's the best sequence in Star Wars, period. But I think the biggest problems with Snoke, Rey's lineage, and her backstory and everything is J.J. Abrams' fault. That's what he set up, and Rian Johnson had this plate to deal with, and J.J. Abrams is coming back, so maybe what you guys are saying is true. I think Rian Johnson meant it to be the way it played out. Her parents were nobodies. J.J. Abrams may rewrite that, and there's plenty of room to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked the twist on Snoke because I didn't care about Snoke in the first movie. I know people theorized about him. I thought he was like, another emperor. And then when they just killed him, I was like, good, I don't have to worry about that guy.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that.
That's my thing is I wanted them to either just kill him outright like they did, or actually tell us what the hell is going on here. Because I didn't think he was just another emperor. I thought he was like someone that we'd seen before or something like that. It's like, oh man, Darth Plagueis is actually here or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that was the biggest one. Was he was Darth Plagueis.
And there was a book I think that kind of explains a bit about why he's there.
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Oh, I thought that there's a synopsis of why he's there in something.
No, there was in the novelization of the Force Awakens, they said that at some point he has said he was around at the beginning of the Empire. He saw the rise of the Empire and the fall. So that's really the only backstory we really
Weird.
got.
Okay. I heard something totally different, and that's entirely wrong. Then never mind.
I mean, you might have heard something else, but
I just heard this weird thing that he could transport from body to body.
No, I think I told you. I was telling you about that. No. Excuse me. It was a theory because in one of the old Legends books, after Palpatine was killed, he was able to transfer his consciousness
to another body.
Right. But the thing is, when he transferred his consciousness to another body, the body would decompose and it would rot a lot faster. And then that's why he had to keep moving on. So
that would explain Snoke's looking all desiccated and gross.
Yeah. So that's a pretty spot on theory, but then you would have to bring Snoke back and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I feel like his death would have been more okay with me if we got something about his backstory, because unfortunately, you don't.
Yeah, he's
Sith,
just there.
the Sith is not like the Jedi. Like, oh yeah, there's a Jedi for every day of the year. Unfortunately, when there's a new Sith around, you're kind of like, okay, I kind of need to know about this one because there's only 2, maybe 3 at a time.
Right.
Well, one of the interesting things that they did come out and say he's not a Sith.
Right.
And,
right,
and neither
right.
is Kylo, which I
They're
thought
just
was
dark-
real. I
they're
didn't
just
know
dark Force
that
users.
until I found out, like, there's whole nother factions within a side of the Force, which I thought was interesting and opened things up.
Right.
Which is what I thought the whole point of the movie was when they said
making the Grey Jedi Order.
yeah, like they said like this time for the Jedi to end, because I thought Luke was going to be a lot more philosophical about it. It was like because the Jedi's enemy were the Sith. What we're dealing with now are not the Sith. So we have like the Jedi must end so something else can be born, which I guess essentially is what's happening now.
Yeah, it just does kind of like irk me when Luke at the very end still says there's one more Jedi. And it's like, don't call her a Jedi.
Yeah, like
Let's stop.
so. Unfortunately, this is not just a Star Wars podcast. We're talking about everything else that's come out. So
Okay, so I've got a I've
what's
got
yours?
a movie. So it's another one that kind of like has people on both sides. I'm split down the middle. Alien Covenant. So I kind of enjoyed it, but also had a lot of problems with it, and a lot of people did too. Such as it totally, even more so than Prometheus, rewrites a giant amount of alien lore and overwrites a lot of my favorite alien lore, which is humans find out they're not alone in the universe, and that one thing they meet that proves that they're not alone tries to kill them. And
which is why meet anything at all.
right. And Prometheus and Covenant basically tell us, oh, and guess what? Humans made it, meaning humans are the bad guy and curators of our destruction all along. Woo, philosophical. And I'm sitting here like...
Real quick, it just reminds me of that, like, in that stinger on the episode of Futurama, when the scientist is like, I got all the DNA of all the most dangerous predators in the world. He's like, the real predator is man. And it just, like, ends the episode. You remember that?
I think...
It just makes me... It just, when you said that, it made me think, like, yeah, human beings are the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
so.
and I, like... We've heard this story told so many frickin' times. The mankind is, creates their own destruction. I am so tired of that. The whole point of Alien wasn't so much humans kill ourselves. It was everything is dangerous. We're going to die.
Very simple.
And that was
very
cool.
simple message.
And it was just the way that it happened. And also, of course, there was like, the scariness of the rape allegory of what happens there. That's a whole nother talking point. But like the one I want to talk about is just, we always wonder if there's life out there, and we finally found life. And what does it do? It kills us, And then there was the engineer that was piloting the ship on Alien, and it was like, oh man, what about that race? Is that race going to try to kill us if we meet it? Oh, it turns out that's actually just a hyper-advanced human in a spacesuit. And I'm like, but I don't
want that.
I don't want that.
Is this a family-friendly podcast?
We try to avoid the F-bomb as much as possible.
Okay, I flippin' hate Alien Covenant. Okay.
Yeah, it just...
like for all the reasons that you said, it was perfect. Like, because the original Alien, when you see what they call, do they call the pilot or space jockey?
Well, the space jockey.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's so weird and bizarre. Your mind is kind of warped. Like, how can this thing exist? Like, it doesn't make sense. And part of the mystery is so undervalued. Everyone wants everything explained, and yeah, I think Alien Covenant like really tore up the Alien franchise in a bad way. Not that other films haven't done it before, but Prometheus, it took away some things, but I was still okay with some of the ways they were going with it, especially because the lead actress, Noomi Rapace, I love her work, and like I wanted to follow
I actually
her.
really like Prometheus.
Yeah.
Prometheus to me is like an 80 or like a 75 to an 80, whereas Covenant's like a 60 or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
and they killed her, and I was like, now I don't care.
That was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is that they immediately say, "Oh yeah, she's dead."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, why?
Yep.
Why did David just do that? Like, why would she? I don't know, man.
Because they wanted to make
'Cause they
David
wanted to make-
Fassbender the new star.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it's stupid, but also, I will say he was the shining star in Covenant
Because he wasn't David. He was
both David
And-
and the other one.
It's like a Texan kind of name,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Like, that's what I always think of.
I
He's
can't
like
remember because I know it's a bunch of different. I know he's just different models
Yeah,
of
it's
a
just different
robot.
models of the same robot.
like Bill or something.
Yeah, but like,
Bill and David.
Yeah.
that's gonna kill me now that I can't remember it. Anyway, but yeah, no. So like, he had to play two different characters, sometimes being on the same screen at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and make them believably different. And he did it perfectly. David is still stupid, and I hate David, but the other character actually was pretty fantastic. But like, that was one of the only redeeming parts of that movie for me, because I hated the way they explained away the engineers dying. I hated the way they explained David creating these monsters. Though me and my older brother talked about this, and actually an interesting take on what he's done is the other robot tells David, "You are not a creator, you are a thief," essentially. And one of the ways he does that is David quotes something from a book, and he says it's Ulysses, and then, or no, it's Grant, and then like the other one goes, "No, that's Ulysses," because that's not the original, that's not the origination of the quote, meaning that David is only taking what's already been made and using it for himself and his own purposes, which I take as also including the hypergeneration of this monster stuff. It's actually engineer tech that David has started taking, and like, he thinks that he's manipulating or pushing forward, but he's not actually. He's just using it the way it was made in the first place. So he's not a creator. He's literally just someone that believes that he's doing something new. But anyway, Alien Covenant was a load of garbage otherwise.
All right, so I want to talk about another film. It's not. It's on my I did not like side, but at the same time, I kind of did like it. It's one of those bad good movies, and that's King Arthur: Legend of the Sword.
Oh my god.
Movie's bad. I will say
why.
it's bad. But man, when you watch some of the fight scenes, you're just kind of like, sure, why not? Let's just make Excalibur literally do everything. Because like I know there's a scene where he swings Excalibur and a courtyard just explodes, and you're just kind of like, okay. Like, and I feel like this movie I think it would have been better received if it was called He-Man, because I think like
That would have been hilarious.
if it was, I feel like if it was called He-Man, everyone would be like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
Like, but the fact that it's called King Arthur and it's literally like, I don't know, I wish I could take credit for it, but some other reviewers call it the soccer hooligan King Arthur, because it's just like, this is what that's how they all speak and how they all act and stuff.
Right.
And it's Guy Ritchie at his like most Guy Ritchie, like, he has his
That's a problem.
yeah, that is a problem. Like, his storytelling of like, okay, we're gonna tell me a story, and cut back. It does all these like cut scenes to the past and the present, and it's just kind of like, this is not good for a King Arthur movie, unfortunately. Right. And now we won't see another King Arthur movie for another 5-10 years because like, we're not touching this.
On the note of like guilty pleasures, Power Rangers.
Yes.
Not a great movie at all, but oh my god, when they get in the Zords for the first time and they're running across the freaking plane and
you
playing
hear
the Power Rangers theme, it's just like, come on, man, you can't not.
Here's the funny thing about Power Rangers, really quick. First, did you see King Arthur?
I did see King Arthur.
What did you think of it, really quick?
Well, I left halfway through, and I almost wanted to throw up. But like, it's just real quick. I think King Arthur is like, it has the same problem Bright did for me.
Yeah.
I don't think people appreciate what makes the content interesting, like Guy Ritchie and David Ayer, who did Bright. I think they both see, the fantasy elements or the King Arthur elements, whatever, and they're like, this stuff's boring. I should make it more interesting with the stuff I like. And they totally ruined the heart of what they were supposed to be doing in the first place.
You left halfway through. You said you left halfway through?
I came back at the last
okay, so
day,
you saw...
I saw the end, yeah.
Yeah, the villain, Jude Law, becomes like an anime villain character. Like, it's just a skull. Like, it's Skeletor.
No.
He literally becomes Skeletor with a giant scythe. And you're like,
oh, Lord.
This really should have been just He-Man, because holy crap, like, this very anime-ish fight was just so jarring, because they were not humans. It was all CGI, people just swinging around. It was like, if this was anything else, I probably would enjoy it. But the fact that I was like, we're going to fight in this room. Now the scenery's changed to this like more hyper fantasy like cliff. I don't know. It just wasn't good. But Power Rangers, really quick. So with the thing about Power Rangers for me, it was the reverse Pacific Rim, where it was Pacific Rim was, I don't care about the humans or people, just give me the robots and the monsters fighting. With Power Rangers, I cared so much about the actual Rangers, and when they finally got to the whole Power Rangers stuff, I was just kind of like, okay, I mean, yeah, the Zord looks kind of cool, but you're right. The scene when they're going in the cavern and you hear the music,
that's the only reason I watched that movie.
I started laughing, just like not out of like, oh, this is stupid, like out of joy, just like, oh, this is so cool.
I am 5 again.
But like, yeah, just watching the Power Rangers kind of be Power Rangers and just kind of seeing how they become friends, you're like, I actually care about this. And then when it gets all to the other stuff with Rita, you're like, okay, let's go back to teenagers doing teenage stuff, because I actually cared about that. Did you see Power Rangers?
I didn't, but now hearing you guys talk about it makes me want to just check it out just for the nostalgia factor. Because I saw the way Goldar looked, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, but that wasn't good either.
Goldar was meh.
And I did love Pacific Rim, and I thought maybe if it was a little bit more like that, but
It like I said, it's just the reverse, as in where you care more how the people act than the robot. The scenes when they're Power Rangers, that's fun. Like seeing them actually fight and seeing how the suits work. You actually understand why the suits look the way they do, because again, it's armor. It's not just spandex, which are kind of like when you go back to the old show, like, how is that a super suit when it's literally just like But no, Power Rangers, like, I remember talking to someone like, oh, Power Rangers wasn't good. It's like, wasn't trying to be like a good movie, it was a, I don't know, it's so hard to explain to people, because it's like
cheesy kung fu show.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't trying to be anything but Power Rangers, but just a little more. I say grounded, but I mean that so loosely. I mean, when I say grounded, I mean like it's still hovering above the ground. Grounded. Right. Like, so let's see, Tim, do you have another film you want to bring up?
Yeah. One movie that really, I was not looking forward to because the last two had let me down. Thor Ragnarok was probably my favorite superhero movie of the year. Yeah. I laughed harder in this movie than I laughed at any other movie, so I guess it's my favorite comedy too. Yeah. But I just was so in love with the way Taika Waititi took this film and totally changed the Thor character, really, from like this brooding kind of person to sort of embracing the bizarre elements of the comic books that is the source material, and kind of like freshened up I think the future, because there's always the threat of these things becoming stale when we're at like 20 movies in, right? So
which is really close.
I think this blew the lid open, where it's like, all right, now we can get some more mileage out of this. And
it was a rebirth for the character.
It almost felt more like Flash Gordon at some points, which I love. Like with the score, like I love the score. It's also one of my favorite scores for the entire year, and the synth music and things like that. I'm in love with this movie.
Thinking about it, it reminds me of I think Kung Fury.
Yeah.
It's like they looked at Kung Fury and they're like, all right, let's tone down a bit of the 80s of it, so like there's not just like time like, oh yes, it's the Viking Age, that kind of thing, but like let's keep the feel of that, and that's what they did, because like it was, the color palette was very 80s with like this weird a lot of neon, but also a lot of pastels and stuff like that. The pastels a lot. And I don't know. It was just like they hit a bunch of points that made this movie stand out from basically any other Marvel movie for the last couple years.
Mhm.
Kind of like, oh, guess what? Hulk's talking now. Oh, guess what? We're gonna actually hurt one of the main characters. He loses. Spoiler alert: he loses an eye,
And he loses Mjolnir and does not come
and
back.
it doesn't come back.
Yeah, I was
Like,
surprised about that.
I really thought he was gonna get.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they really kind of just wrote it. They just wrote it out. And other than when he was explaining to the Rock guy about like losing, he's like, so the way you're talking about this hammer is kind of like you just lost a loved one. He's kind of like, yeah, more or less. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it,
Also,
Mjolnir was kind of the big like defining factor of Thor. It's like
Right.
without the hammer, he's not really anything. But one quick bad thing I didn't like. I hated the whole like, oh, Mjolnir was actually just it just helped you control your power. It's like, but in the comics, Thor was literally just a guy with super strength and it was very durable. But the hammer was actually everything he had. So I didn't really like that.
I feel like the cinematic universe kind of flipped it because in the comic verse, Mjolnir contains the power of Thor, and so when he doesn't have it, he becomes a human.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like what the cinematic one did was just kind of like put that power back into him, so he's always got it. Because like in the first movie, he does lose his powers.
Yeah,
and Mjolnir has it. But I think that Odin literally just took all of his powers out of him, put it in Mjolnir in that movie, and then when he gets Mjolnir back, he gets the power back. And so Mjolnir is just a conduit from then on.
So I didn't like that though.
Yeah, that's understandable. But I loved that the director threw in a bunch of really good cameos from both Thor and from Planet Hulk, because Korg, who is one of my favorite characters from that movie, wasn't he voiced by Waititi?
Yeah. That's why he was really small and like he was
He has a Kiwi accent.
Yeah, and he was New Zealand and all that.
Will the spaceship wanna come?
Wanna come?
Anyway, so
Get out here, ghost.
get out of here, you shiny ghost. That was, oh my god, it's my favorite moment. He just kicks the wall, starts attacking it. Anyway, Korg is a race of Rockman that if you've read Planet Hulk, you'll go, oh man, cool. That's actually from Planet Hulk. But it's actually from the first issue of Thor ever.
Yep.
When Thor is when Thor is actually what's his human name in the comics? It's like Philip
Is he
Murphy?
a doctor or something?
Philip, is it?
No,
It's not Philip
I'm
Murphy.
not really a comic.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He had it was weird.
he gets chased into a cave by aliens and then finds Thor's hammer, gets Thor's hammer, comes back out and beats the crap out of the aliens. Those aliens are the Rockmen. And in Planet Hulk, in the comics, Korg actually mentions how he was one of those 2 or 3 original Rockmen that got their face beat in by Thor. And then another really great cameo on the big old tower.
I was just thinking that too.
Yeah, the big old tower, it shows a bunch of silver faces of all the champions, and they're building Hulk's champion face. Beta Ray Bill is the champion before Hulk, which kind of sucks because that means Hulk either killed or beat the crud out of Beta Ray Bill, and he's gone now.
I like to think he retired.
I hope he retired, because I really
won
wanted
his freedom, maybe.
I wanted more than just anything for you to see Beta Ray Bill. Like, come on.
And I think one of the I was hearing some people like complain about like, oh, it just looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like it has to.
It
has to look like Guardians of the Galaxy because
I think this was better than Guardians of the Galaxy in my opinion.
The original one.
It gets real close to being better than the original one
Yeah.
to me. The second one, blows it out of the water.
Oh my god, this is not even on the
yeah.
map. But the thing about reason why I like Thor Ragnarok is because like you guys said, it breaks the Thor mold, and it also breaks the trend of just bad Marvel sequels outside of Winter Soldier and Civil War to a certain extent, because if you look at a lot of Marvel sequels, they don't hold up, and this one was just kind of like, you know what? Let's kind of just not talk about anything else that's happened, because really, if you look at all the only references to the past films was the fact that Loki replaced Odin.
Yeah.
Everything else was literally, and then the Hulk and Thor stuff. Like we don't even know how Hulk got to the planet. They didn't really explain that unless I missed it.
There was in Avengers Age of Ultron is when Hulk gets shot into space. I think.
No. At the end of Age of Ultron, he just gets in the Quinjet, and they said the ship crashed in Fiji.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they're just like, don't worry about it.
Just don't.
So outside of those references, this is literally just a standalone movie, and that's what I really like because, and I was really nervous how they were going to do Surtur, because Surtur is like a really big villain.
Yeah.
Like he is like the villain, which is I was correct in why they made Dormammu look the way he did in
because they didn't want him to look like Surtur.
Yeah, because Dormammu in Doctor Strange is just a giant purple face, but in comics he's a fire demon, which looks exactly like Surtur. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
they don't want to confuse people. So I was right on there. But the first scene I thought I was not gonna like, but when he was in chains and he was like, oh, hold on, I just need to turn around one more time. I was actually really enjoying that. And then the revelation of like, no, Asgard needs to end, and you just see Surtur just destroying everything, but then doing his whole like villain monologue.
His villain monologue to there's no one there.
I will destroy everyone, and everyone's just like watching while they're leaving. He's like, I will destroy all of Asgard and Asgardians, and there's no one there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was also really funny.
I also love the Hulk just going, I was like, Hulk, no, don't smash. But I want to destroy the monster.
He's
no, leave it alone.
Like, no smashing this time. All right.
God.
So let's do another one that just did not hit for me, and that was The Dark Tower.
That was on my hate list too.
It bummed me out because one, I love westerns. I love Idris Elba and I love Matthew McConaughey. They acted their asses off. They were just like, hey, we are aiming for Oscars. Like, we're going for the Oscars. It did not work out. But, like, it's one of those movies. It felt like I was watching, like, the second or third movie in a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a lot of context that I felt like, I think we need to go back a few times. Because I know, like, when they first announced they're going to do the whole Dark Tower series, they were going to do like some on TV and some in the film, and it's like that's
Which already sounds like you have a bad plan.
Yeah, that's a horrible idea. But yeah, because I know the Dark Tower is actually the third. I think it's the third book in the Gunslinger in the Gunslinger series, and that's what this movie felt like. Because I guess in the first book, the Gunslinger, nothing happens. From what people have told me, they said nothing happens in that book that's even relevant. So, and unfortunately in this one, it felt like the second or third film, and it really affected it.
I'd have to disagree with those people. I'm one of the book fans of this series, and would be a much slower film, but I think that can be done right. There are lots of good slow films.
Yeah.
And I think the slow revelation could have been done very well. Like if they had gone, but they mixed like 3 books in this movie, and the tone didn't feel right for the setting. Like it didn't feel like the right environment, like the kind of feel I got from the books. I didn't like the casting of Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Just based on my reading of the book, he was either, he was in the middle. He should have been either older or a younger actor, depending on how they wanted to play that. But that one really let me down because that's a really great series with a lot of great material, and somehow they left all the good stuff out.
Yeah.
So.
Because didn't the series just end like a few years ago?
I think so, yeah. And there's like 15 books.
Yeah, and like technically the series goes on as long as Stephen King wants to because it's all part of a multiverse. So.
Right, yeah. Because there's I know in the movie when they're traveling through the forest and they see they get to like a carnival and you see a clown holding balloons in the like on the sign it says Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, they actually it is all inclusive.
And then when the kid is in he's in the therapist's office, in the frame is the hotel from The Shining.
Yeah.
So like you're right. It's just all part of the multiverse.
I don't know if it's in that Earth, but there's an Earth in that multiverse where they meet Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like. And
the monsters that they kill in the movie, they're the monsters from The Mist. I think they said.
Ooh.
Yeah, they said
the new one or the old one, or just based on the book.
Based on the book, the monsters are supposed to be the same. So yeah, the Dark Tower was a. Did you see the Dark Tower? Or?
I did not because I heard so much about it. I kind of wish I had just so I had a better opinion, but I did not. So this one's a little bit non sequitur compared to your guys' ones so far,
Yeah.
but I went and saw Your Name, also
Ooh,
known
oh,
as
yeah,
Kimi
yeah.
no Nawa. It was a Japanese anime that was released like very small windows in America, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's all I've heard. Literally
It
nothing but good
is-
things about it.
Like if you like Ghibli films, this isn't exactly a Ghibli film, but it's very much like it's a romance comedy that uses the Freaky Friday element. So this girl and this boy keep switching spots with each other, like going into their bodies and having to live out their lives like that. And they slowly like develop like a friendship and more than that because of this, even though they've never actually met each other. They only know their like the way they look by like looking in the mirror when they're the other person. But there's a really awesome element that would spoil way too much if I told you about it, that happens in the film. And anyway, like the whole idea is this is one of the best films I've seen that's an anime that's really good for people that haven't seen anime
Yeah.
to watch, just because it's so accessible, because it doesn't have some weird high fantasy like monsters thing happening. It's just these people interacting a lot of the time.
Because I feel like that's the one thing about, especially these anime movies, that's kind of like, if you're not an anime fan, you probably just won't enjoy it because
Yeah.
they'll do something that, like, we will understand because we watch anime and like, oh yeah, that's fine. But to a normal person, they'd be like, well, that's a little weird. But from what you're explaining, that this one's just like, it's just a story, and it just so happens to be.
Yeah,
anime.
exactly. This I could totally see be done as
Live action.
action. I actually prefer it animated because I prefer a lot of stuff animated, whether it's actually anime or another westernized animation style. Because
Mhm.
I think that the work that goes into animation is a huge draw for me. But if for some reason this was a feature length fully acted movie that a bunch of people it was like American released, it would have killed it at the box office.
Yeah, and it made a lot of money. Too.
It made
like,
a lot of money compared to other anime. It's like the second most
I heard it was the most.
animated feature since Ghibli. Like it's either because I think what was it, Spirited Away has made the most nationally, and I think it might have broken Spirited Away's
I think it might have because
it made 355 million
that's US.
US dollars
Is that-
nationally.
I wonder, is that nationally? 'Cause
That's probably, or I mean that's internationally. I think that's worldwide.
it had, yeah. That's
And that beats. I think that does beat Spirited Away.
oh, it has to be because I mean, even like not just an animated film, but like an anime film. Because again, that's a very niche market.
Yeah, that's
in
a very
in
niche
reality, especially here in the States. So the fact that it made that says something about the quality of the movie. So I would I want to check it. I just haven't had a chance to.
So yeah, no, it's a really good movie. I totally
Yeah.
suggest any of you guys see it if you have any interest in that kind of stuff at all. And even if not, it's still a really good story.
Real quick, since we talked about animated films, I do want to bring up Coco, which was probably my favorite animated movie of the year. It was very emotional, as Pixar does. I cried 4, 5, 6 times, I think.
Oh man,
Because I saw it by myself in a theater. I was just kind of like being like, just dude all alone in the movie theater, just wailing because just so many. It was just one of those like really strong character films, and there are a lot of twists and turns that you think you see coming, but then you don't see it coming, and you're just kind of like, oh, that was a nice surprise. And I'm crying at the same time. And like you said, because for me, animation is also a big draw. And finding out that like when you first see Coco walk into the land of the dead, and you find out that it was like, I can't remember how many artists, but they said they had a whole team of artists working on the background. Like
Wow.
each one has his own like distinct look, and it was because they
that's
had
neat.
so many different people working on it, and it was fun. And the only bad thing about it was that I had to watch like almost a half-hour short film about Frozen.
that's
Which I was kind of just like, why is this happening? Like, because I know Pixar does those short films, but those were like 5 minutes. This was like a whole
Mini episode.
like a mini episode. I'm like, why why is this happening? And yeah, so not was not a whole fan of that. All right, Tim, what's another one?
Um, let's see here. I think I want to talk about Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh, go for
Oh
it.
man.
I really wanted to see that.
Yeah, it's probably my number one pick of the year. I haven't really come down for sure on anything, but it is a strong contender, and it's so well paced and deftly written. It was strangely a world that was both depressing and sad, and also uplifting at the same time. It's very realistic in the way it's trying to be. It's not like surreal or anything, and yet it felt like apart from our own world. I just kind of wanted to be there with the characters in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to the performances a lot. Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson are just amazing, and the writing I think is really strong too. And I'm not trying to give too much away because there's a lot. I think this is one of the movies that like the least
You know about it, the better.
yeah, and you just go into it and just get to live the movie with the characters and just discover things as it's revealed to you, as they intended, for you to know about it.
Yeah.
But because there's some very deft reveals that they do around the corners, and it has some very good messages, I think, about the reality of dealing with loss. It's not, it's a bit like subverting your expectations on a lot of things, but maybe in healthy ways.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you want a great experience, watching a film, absorbing a film, I'm still thinking about it. I saw it a week ago, and the only other movie made me think this much about it was maybe Blade Runner, and so and that's one of my other top ones.
Yeah.
But,
We're saving that one towards the end 'cause
Yeah.
I know that's gonna be a long. That's gonna be almost as long as the Star Wars one. So,
Right.
All right. So I've got one here.
all right.
The Disaster Artist.
Yeah. Go,
Please tell me, have either of you seen that one?
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah,
I haven't. I haven't seen it yet.
You need to see that. It was freaking great. I wouldn't call it like my like the best movie of the year for me, because Blade Runner obviously takes that spot. But it was still, every inch of that movie had something for you. Especially, but like the one thing though is you need to have seen The Room in order to understand it entirely. So you need context for it, which is like a slight drawback, but not a huge one, because The Room is its own thing.
It's a tough watch.
Yeah. But like the amount of care that went into recreating as many scenes as possible and just making you kind of relive watching that movie. But like the best parts of watching that movie, because if you're like me, I saw The Room in a crowded theater where everyone had pockets full of spoons and footballs that we passed around whenever they passed the football and stuff or the basketball or whatever. Like it was hilarious. And
Do you know he still makes $1 million a year?
yeah, no, he makes a bunch
$1 million
of money off of that thing.
I would make I would make the worst movie if I knew for a fact.
Oh yeah, it was totally a comedy.
Yeah. Oh my god! If they said like, yeah, we guarantee you $1 million a year, oh, I'd make the biggest crap pile in a week, and I'll let that be my legacy.
Right.
I'll let that be my legacy if I was making $1 million a year
Right.
for it. Oh, it's not fair.
Yeah, and so like I don't know. It was another kind of guilty pleasure movie. Only it wasn't so guilty. It was just
Yeah,
kind of nice.
I thought
Yeah.
I was going to see a comedy that was just straight, recreation of how they made the film, straight through. But there was a lot of side material where they're not on set, and a lot of emotion too, like sincerity that I didn't expect to get. Where
Yeah.
it made me like, some parts were kind of dark, and other parts were, sad or touching, and those were experiences I didn't expect to take away from seeing that Disaster Artist. So.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I was gonna say something and I completely blanked. Oh, I just remembered.
Okay.
The reason why I really want to see the Disaster Artist, and I just haven't done it because I've been really busy with work and crap like that. But I love movies about making movies. Like
Yeah.
I've always loved those. That's why I really love like Singing in